everybody. It's Morgan from This Empowered Mom. It is my Friday live series, and for the past several weeks, I have been talking to you about the experiences that made me. So I've been talking about everything from having major jaw surgery to family vacations to meeting my husband. And today I am going to be talking to you about going through a miscarriage. So I want to put that out there as a trigger warning to anybody who might be watching this. I am going to talk about my miscarriage. And the reason that I want to talk about it is, one, it absolutely shaped me and still has an impact on me today. And two, when I had that miscarriage, I didn't know very many other people who talked about having a miscarriage. And since then, and since I've started sharing my experience and people have started opening up to me, I have realized just how common it is and how challenging it is to feel like we need to grieve or process a miscarriage in silence. So that's one of the main reasons that I'm sharing my story today. So I will start by saying I am fortunate enough now to be the mother to two girls who are here and keeping me on my toes and keeping me laughing and cursing sometimes every day. So I'll kind of start at the beginning with my story. So I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I got married at 24 and knew that I didn't want to have kids right away. I wanted to take some time to be married and have my career. And my husband and I decided that we were ready to have kids probably when I was 27 or 28, I would say around that time. And honestly, I had spent my young adulthood so incredibly worried about getting pregnant that I assumed that once I actually decided I wanted to get pregnant, that it was going to be pretty easy because I had been so worried about precautions to take to not get pregnant. And I had a different experience. We probably tried for 1 year before I got pregnant. I remember it was January. I started feeling a little bit different and had missed a period and took a test, and lo and behold, it was positive. So after that, I took about 20 more tests and they were also all positive. So I had learned from my friends and from all the messages that I got from society to really keep this news pretty quiet and to not tell a lot of people until I was 12 weeks along. And so I did that. I told my mom and my sister, I called them, and then we had my first appointment. And it was amazing. I saw the flicker of the fetal pole or the heartbeat. And it was so surreal. I could not believe that I was actually pregnant and that I was going to have a baby. So after that appointment, when things looked pretty good, we told a few more people. I think in all, maybe 12 people knew. And the only thing that was on my radar was having a healthy baby. It never occurred to me that I might have a miscarriage. It never occurred to me that if I didn't have a miscarriage, that I may have a baby that wasn't born healthy. It just was not on my radar. I didn't really know anybody that had experienced either of those things. So I went along as if everything was good. I felt good. I was gaining weight. And so when I went into my 11-week appointment, I was super excited because it was going to be this appointment that we were going to use as our kind of threshold to start telling everybody. So Augie and I took different cars. We both came from work. And this was the appointment at my OBGYN's office where you left with a tote bag. And in my mind, that tote bag was like full of coupons and presents. And it meant like, hey, you are pregnant. This is happening for you. So I went into that appointment with like all these expectations of being this woman who was pregnant and was going to get to share this wonderful news. So we went in, saw my doctor. She started doing an ultrasound and she was very quiet. And she was, really looking. and then looked at me and said, "Morgan, I'm so sorry I can't find a heartbeat. I'm so sorry." And I looked at her confused, like, "Well, what do you mean you just can't find it? Like, it was there, 4 weeks ago, so it's not there now." And she said, "Morgan, it means that this isn't a viable pregnancy." I was in shock. I started crying. She started crying, and she said, I said, "But how can this not be? I haven't had any spotting. I haven't had any cramping. Like, everything feels totally fine. Like, I'm pregnant. Nothing's changed." And she said, "Sometimes this happens and your hormone levels don't change as fast as the viability of the pregnancy," or something to that effect. "So your hormones haven't caught up with what's actually going on to trigger the miscarriage." And by this time, I was totally floored, crying, didn't really understand what was happening. And all of the questions and the emotions started coming to my mind. What did I do? Why was this happening to me? Did I drink wine before I realized I was pregnant? I was doing improv at the time. No, I wasn't doing improv yet. I was working out. So I thought, have I been working out too hard? Like, what did I do to cause this? And she was wonderful and assured me over and over again that this was not me. It was nothing I did. It was nothing that I had control of. And that it was called a miscarriage. So she could tell by the measurements that the baby had probably stopped developing at around 9 weeks. So it had been 2 weeks, and she thought, "You probably won't have a miscarriage on your own." So she wrote me a prescription for some Cytotec, which was going to help my cervix dilate and essentially help my body actually physically have a miscarriage. So I left that appointment. I still had that damn tote bag. I don't know why I didn't leave it there. I had the tote bag. I was crying. Augie was crying. We had taken separate cars and I didn't know what to do. Nobody at my office knew that I was pregnant. So I thought, well, I better go back to work. So I called my mom, called my sister. I told them. They both said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I guess I'm going to go to work." So I went back to work. Sitting at my desk, could not concentrate, tears streaming down my face. I reported to HR at the time. I went in, I talked to my boss. I said, "I can't be here. I was pregnant. I'm not anymore. I can't concentrate. I've got to go home." So I went home. And then that Friday, we were planning to go to South by Southwest. And again, I just had these feelings of guilt and maybe false hope. And I was thinking, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't go. Maybe I'm still pregnant. Maybe she was wrong. I don't know if I can drink. I don't know if I can have fun. I don't know what I can do, to process this. So we went to South by Southwest. We told a couple of our friends. And then that weekend, I was going to use a Cytotec. Well, fast forward, that did not work. It didn't do anything. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this means I'm still pregnant. Maybe this means it's a fluke. I was still holding on to that idea that maybe this baby was meant to be and that I could will it to happen. I could not. Ultimately, my doctor ended up clearing her schedule and brought me in for a emergency D&C. I had that procedure done. I remember as soon as I got to the surgery center and they started the anesthesia, I lost it. I started crying. And after that procedure, I went home. I worked. Again, I worked. I thought that I needed to just try to go back to normal when I was not feeling normal or in any state to keep going, but I did. And by that time, I had shared what had happened with some coworkers, and everybody was so incredibly supportive. And I recovered from my D&C. I didn't have any complications. And I do remember running into a friend at the grocery store that we had just met. And he had been at our house for a Super Bowl party because it was when the Packers were in the Super Bowl. So I was so excited. And he was like, "Oh, Morgan, how are you doing?" And I lost it. I just started crying and I told him everything. This poor guy that had known me for about 2 weeks, I just lost it on him. And I think that is not uncommon with miscarriages when we're bottling everything up and holding it inside. So I remember Mother's Day was so hard because I expected to be pregnant, and my mom actually came in from Sacramento and spent the weekend with me. It was going to be a surprise, and I was going to be pregnant, and I wasn't, and so that was really hard. And I eventually started to kind of come out of this sadness and guilt, but I did not come out of the fear. I was so afraid after that it would happen to me again and that I would never be able to have kids. I went to the ultimate worst case scenario, and I got pregnant about 4 months after my DNC and was terrified probably up until my 20-week appointment. I did have a lot of spotting. I did have a ton of bleeding with that pregnancy, and I don't know why. So I was at the doctor a lot, and every time they would do an ultrasound and that little flicker would still be there. But that fear that I had about having another miscarriage or not being able to have kids was with me that whole pregnancy. And I don't know if that ever leaves you. I'll be honest. I sometimes still check my toilet paper to see if there's blood on it. And I haven't been pregnant in 7 years, and I'm still checking. My miscarriage was in 2011, and I'm still checking. So when I look back on that situation and I think, how did this shape me? I realized that as women, we have and feel this burden to be the strong ones, to keep what we're experiencing inside so that we don't make other people uncomfortable. That was my big thing. I didn't share my pregnancy news before 12 weeks because if something bad happened, I didn't want anybody else to feel uncomfortable or sad. I didn't talk a lot about my miscarriage, again, because I didn't want to make people uncomfortable. And if I went through it again, and if I were to get pregnant again, I would not keep my pregnancy a secret until I hit that 12-week threshold, because I realized that having that emotional and community support from my people is so much more important than keeping something a secret. And so for anyone out there who's watching this and has experienced a miscarriage, know that my heart is with you. And for those women who are trying to conceive, or even those women who have decided that they don't want to have children, my heart is with you too, because these are all choices that either we make, and sometimes they're choices that we don't make, and they're so individual and they're so personal. And if anybody out there is watching and wants to talk about their experience, I am always open to listen and to share and support you with empathy and care. I still remember the dates. It was March 16th that I went in and there wasn't a heartbeat. March 21st was my DNC. October 5th was my due date. I don't know that I'll forget them, and I think that's okay. I've processed it. I can talk about it. I can share my experience, and that's because I have a strong support network, and I've got courage. I don't know. I don't want anybody to have to go through it alone. And I think about that little baby that might have been, and I know that if I hadn't have had that experience and that miscarriage, that I wouldn't have the two girls and the lights of my life that are here with me today. So thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me share my story. And again, I am always here to listen and to support you through your journeys I guess the one piece of advice I have, if you are supporting somebody through a miscarriage, are not to say that it's God's way and not to say that it wasn't meant to be, because those two phrases are not helpful. Instead, be a listening, supportive friend, even if it's uncomfortable. Be there, and if it is uncomfortable for you and it's too uncomfortable, be honest about that and maybe say, I am not in a place right now where I can receive and process this information. I want to be there for you and I want to support you, and I need some time to figure out how best to do that. I think I would appreciate that more than I would appreciate somebody just completely going radio silent on me. So my words of wisdom for you. And if you've been through this and you feel differently, please share that too, because there is still so much to learn, and everybody appreciates being supported in a different way. So with that, I know this was a little deep today. Be a friend, be a listening ear. Reach out to me with any questions. Thanks for watching and tuning in. I hope y'all have an amazing weekend. We've got some fun things on the docket. My daughters are in a play today. They're in Aladdin. They were perfectly cast as Abu and Iago, so we're going to go check that out. And next week, I am back at Camp Girls on the Run as a coach, and I am so looking forward to working with a brand new group of girls. And this session, our message is girls have power, and it's all about feelings and tapping into emotions and really understanding how to navigate through those uncomfortable emotions. I won't call them bad, because there's no good and bad emotions. They serve their point. But those ones that are really discomforting and uncomfortable and harder to manage. So I'm super excited about that, because I'm all about the feelings. So would love to hear from you. Reach out. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see you all around. Bye.